What's up, everybody? It's your boy Hollywood AJ back with another episode of the Keep It 100 YouTube channel. Hollywood AJ, like I just said. Final prediction, Sean O'Malley, Pedro Munoz. I will be going over my prediction for the other fights as well, but I'm going to be breaking them into a different series of videos. That way you guys can pick and choose who you want to go for, what fight you want to pay attention to most, and which fight you think you should bet the house on. And maybe you could get a new Rolex with. So, let's start with the first video. Sean O'Malley, Pedro Munoz, UFC 276. Very stacked card. UFC always goes all out for the big summer blockbuster. It's like that big summer blockbuster that you're going to see in the movie theater next weekend in Thor, Love and Thunder. It's like that, only with MMA. So one of the fights on there that I'm looking forward to most is Sean O'Malley and Pedro Munoz. This is an important fight for not only Sean O'Malley's career, but for both men's career. It's an important fight for the division. It's an important fight for the UFC and how things are going to go moving forward. Whoever is handling Sean O'Malley's career deserves the MVP for the next 20 years because that guy is handling Sean O'Malley's career or woman to an amazing extent. Excuse me, that I think other fighters should follow that sort of blueprint. Sean O'Malley bursted onto the career via the Contender Series, and we knew he was going to be a star, especially when Snoop Dogg was like, O'Malley, O'Malley. Like, I'm sure y'all remember that, right? He bursted onto the scene with highlight reel knockout after highlight reel knockout. He stayed busy during the pandemic. He's everyone's favorite stoner fighter, aside from the Diaz brothers. This guy's for real. This guy's legit. He doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk, and that's what I like about him most. I got my picture with him right here. He's just an awesome, cool guy. And many people want to see him fight the upper echelon of the division. Well, now that Sean O'Malley is finally ranked, it took him to win his last fight to get ranked. We want to see him fight the best of the best. How about Pedro Munoz, who's been in there with everyone, it seems like. He's been in there with Cody Garbrandt, Frankie Edgar, Jose Aldo. I mean, just the who's who of guys. He didn't win them all, but he's also never been finished in the UFC. And that's a big, big deal. And if you're any fighter, that's just a big deal. So, like I said, Sean O'Malley bursted onto the scene. People want to see him fight the upper echelon of the division. But people don't want to see, the UFC don't want to see him get hurt. Neither does anyone close to Sean O'Malley. He's asking for more money, as every fighter is. He got that money. He got that contract. Now the UFC's like, all right, now it's time to fight the big boys. It's time to fight the dogs that are in the yard. It's time to fight those guys. Pedro Munoz, I think, is a perfect fight stylistically for Sean O'Malley because Pedro Munoz is game. He is the type of guy that will stand and bang no matter what. I mean, just look at his last fight with Dominic Cruz, Pedro Munoz. It was definitely fight of the night in my book. Such an amazing fight. Although Dominic Cruz completely outclassed him, Pedro shows that will and way to just simply not quit. He shows that, hey, I can just hang in there. I'm just a dog. I'm one of the dogs. But with this fight being so important and with this fight being kind of kicking off the main card, I think it's the second fight on the main card, people have many questions. And that is Sean O'Malley going to break through and win? All right? Because let's look at his last few fights. He lost to Chito Vera. I mean, in his eyes, he didn't, but that was his first professional loss. Lost to Chito Vera, beat Thomas Almeida, beat Chris Moutinho, beat Raulian Paiva. Those are all good guys, but when you look into the future for the UFC, are those guys going to be ranked? Are those guys going to be in the top of the division? Are those guys going to be talked about? Not really. Sean O'Malley is building up his career very similar to the way boxers do, fighting guys that aren't really on their level, but instead, I'm going to kick their ass, get the checks, build my highlight reels, and I'm gone. That's all he was doing. Now, though, he's fighting a good guy. He's fighting a tough guy in Pedro Munoz. Like I said, never been finished. What is he going to do? I don't know how this fight's going to go down. Because like I said, Pedro Munoz is game as fuck. This guy is willing to stand and bang with the best of the best, like I said. It is an important fight, not only for Sean O'Malley to break into the top 10, but it's an important fight for Pedro Munoz to build his name, to get more Instagram followers, to get more Twitter followers, to get more YouTube subscribers, which is what I'm trying to do here. You get what I'm saying, though? It is more important for the legacy of the winner, as easy as that sounds, as bleak as that sounds. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't. I think someone's going to get knocked out. I really do. Sean O'Malley uses his range, uses his kicks, uses his jab. He's a very tall guy for the division to keep you on the outside and pick you apart. Kind of like the main event, which I'm going to talk about in a different video, where Israel Adesanya does kind of the same things as Sean O'Malley, although Sean O'Malley is way more flashy and way more loosey-goosey with his style. I do think Pedro's going to have to push the pace. If you give the ground advantage to someone, you're going to have to give it to Pedro, because that guy is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's submitted some of the best, had a war with Rani Yahya. I mean, the ground advantage certainly goes to Pedro. Although I think his ego is going to get the best. Sean's going to light him up a bit. He's going to go out there, and I think Sean's going to get a second round KO. I think they're going to be swinging, kind of fill each other out in the first round. Then as the fight picks up, I think Pedro's going to get caught with something big, and it's only going to add to the highlight reel of Sean O'Malley. The only reason why I say that is because when Pedro Munoz fought Dominick Cruz, he rocked Dominick Cruz. That fight was dangerously close to being stopped. But Dominick Cruz got back on the horse and really fought through that adversity. He fought like himself. He fought like the old Dominick Cruz. He fought like the guy that was the world champion. However, Pedro was completely mesmerized almost. He was hypnotized by Dominick Cruz's movement. He wasn't able to really get a beat on Dominick. That's kind of how it's going to be here, because Sean O'Malley doesn't stand there and lets him hit you. So with that being said, I got Sean O'Malley, second round KO.